After having played Baldur's Gate 3 for 300 hours, I probably need to mention, but before I get that, guys, I want to go into here to the classic tier list of classes again, right? And the big difference now is how they play the game way more, is that I also have a lot of insight now, I feel, from all your guys' comments, right? I got like thousands of comments over these months, but also the insight of having looked at the data, right? Like the most popular classes, popular races, and playstyles and so on. So we're gonna get the tier list. Some of the classes. Now I'm really have a deep expertise here on the game, but also a little bit like I can also talk about, oh, this class is popular, this is the reason why. So we can also have an insight, generally speaking, right, about classes on like a meta level as well, which I think is interesting. It's point out though, yes, I played this game for, a few many hours, but to me, honestly, like I played EU4 for over 1,000 hours. I played both Civ 5 and 6 just under 1,000 hours. So for me, it doesn't feel that much. Like 300 hours, guys, that's nothing. Anyway, let's go to the tier list. So here then, of course, we see the previous just basic tier list, right? And we're not going to go into the subclasses. That might be another video last time. One thing I want to say immediately before going into it, the one thing I definitely reflected over with you guys' comments, I would say massively, is that Sorcerer was like here something, right? And the reason was because I was playing Sorcerer my first run, and then a Paladin my second run. So I made the first video, I was on my Paladin run. And I definitely felt afterwards, a lot of comments being like, oh, why do you have blah blah Sorcerers and what? And I felt that the reason why, honestly, was that because I was playing Sorcerer, and I was like, man, this is an imba, I was like anti the Sorcerer. I was like underrating it to make me not be biased, okay? I was like, I'm not gonna rate them too high because I probably just overestimate them because I enjoyed my Sorcerer run. So I felt that I was like putting down for the one tier because I was like, I don't want to be biased, which made me biased, probably. A little bit, perhaps. But anyway, guys, let's get into it. So, Sorcerer, it's always Sorcerer, yeah, is one of the best classes, right? I think Sorcerer is the best magical class in the game. If you're gonna start, probably. So it's either that, Cleric, Powerful 2, but we put it up in S tier, right? I just go with it. But I'll tell you one thing here. Again, right, just like I did in the last tier list, everyone. I still think it's valuable, okay? Even after everyone's angry comment at me, everything. I still think it's valuable to look at the tier list mostly as who are we playing, okay? I am also thinking about, generally speaking, the classes in the game, don't get me wrong. But to some extent, though, when I'm thinking about, okay, what's the best class or whatever, I'm thinking mostly like, who am I playing, right? As my character. And I said it last time, I say it again, I definitely value the classes that the companions are not playing higher. And I know you can respect them, but who actually does that? I don't respect my characters. Okay? I talked to, for example, my coworker 2 years ago. Two years ago we had this conference, okay? So I have a couple of coworkers that are playing this game as well, right? No surprise there. And one of them, we had this like a long discussion about, builds and so on, and you know how it goes. And and I asked him too, like, okay, so you're playing Carlath with the guy, he's my barbarian, Like, I almost never met anyone. No one I work with had respected class, okay? No one, okay? No one. He's like, Carl is my barbarian, Will is my warlock, yeah. Like, people don't respect often, okay? I know you can do it. I know you can respect your character. And I had one run, my Ranger run. My Ranger run. I'm playing a Ranger halfling. And she is, she's an evil halfling and so on. In that run, I respect everyone for the fun of it, right? So I have like Carlax being the wizard and so on. So of course you can do that, but that to me is basically, I played the game for 200 hours. Now let's try to mix it up. Let's change everything. I don't think you actually usually respect the companions, right? I think it feels weird. They clearly have like a character station, they have a personality, like, you know, Carlex being very like, oh, I'm aggressive, or, you know, or tiefling, yeah. She's clearly written to be in the front line, right? To me, I'm sorry, but it makes no sense to have Carlex being like a wizard, okay? Like I said, I did it in my 4th, 5th round or whatever, right? But that's because I played the game too much, right? Like I keep saying, I'm doing that. That's because I played the game for a few hundred hours. And now I'm just like, whatever. I wanna, you know, experiment, or at least visual experiment, right? But for my first runs, yeah, honestly, it feels weird to me, right? To have her as a non-melee character. I mean, certainly, I could see Carlex, for example, being played as a Paladin, okay? Sure, right? A fighter, right? To give a point. And obviously, if you're playing as a Barbarian, which you probably are, right? You multiclass, which I made another video about, of course, multiclass and so on. You might multiclass her into, you know, like Barbarian Fighter, Barbarian Druid, right? So you can be in the animal form while you have the Barbarian Frenzy and so on. There's a lot of specs for that, right? And that all, you know, works in my head, right? But if you go like, you know, I'm just gonna be a sorcerer, wizard, you know, Carlex. No, it feels weird, okay? So I still come back to that I think that classes that you, as the person are playing, right? You, the human, the player behind the screen, should probably not be one of the classes that the companions have, right? And I said about the Cleric, for example, people are angry at me or not rating Cleric very highly. But because you have Shadowheart, you have Shadow Mommy, right? Shadow Mommy, she's gonna be in your party. Come on. Almost ever I talk to about this game, right, have Shadowheart in their party, right? The Cleric. And are you gonna have 2 Clerics? I mean, clerics are pretty powerful, so you can have 2 Clerics, but I think that's a terrible idea to have 2 Clerics. So that I mean, honestly, if it is one companion that you are most likely to have in your party, it is the Cleric. Oh, Shadowheart. Yeah, Shadow Mama, she's the one that you will very likely never move your party. And I talked, again, to like everyone I work with and people I know and friends and so on. They play this game over now this year, months, months, feels like years. Months, this game has been out, right? And generally speaking, I think everyone I talk to have had Shadowheart in their party. And I really do think that my first tier list, my estimation of saying that Cleric is low tier, in the sense that again, that list was like, who should you play as, right? It was like tier list primarily for who should you be. Yeah, and I was like, well, no one should be the Cleric, because everyone's gonna have Shadowheart in your party. Everyone will play with Shadowheart, right? Because, you know, Opais or whatever. Yeah, but yeah, Shadowheart is gonna be in your party. And that honestly, I brag here, but I was seemingly absolutely correct in that part. One more thing I can say for that matter, right? About Cleric. Let me go ahead and grab that Cleric here. Bam, yeah. One more thing about Cleric was very interesting. That after I made my first tier list, they also had the stats, right? The actual player stats. And just like I predicted, I mean, honestly, I am awesome, is that no one plays the Cleric, okay? And I keep saying it because Shadowheart is your, basically the most popular companion, right? Easily. And Cleric is also a very, very unpopular main character to play as. So no one plays the Cleric, right? And I think it's a combination of who wants to be Ish the healer thing, right? They don't have charisma, so they're not that fun to be as a face of the party. And also then, I think everyone is playing with Shadowheart, right? So there's several factors making the Cleric basically be no one. It's like very low percentage of people actually playing the Cleric. So yeah, my first tier list, I would say, was spot on the money on that. I was like, Cleric, okay? No one's gonna play the Cleric, and you probably shouldn't. And I keep coming back to it, because you have Shadowheart, right? You don't want to have 2 Clerics, okay? So in that way of like creating your own class to play, don't pick the Cleric. And I think everyone, from a macro standpoint, almost everyone agrees with me. I know I got some angry comments every time about it, but you know, come on, no, Cleric is like, no one plays it because everyone would have a Cleric. That being said, though, and I always get this comment, right, and I agree, is that especially Guardian Spirit is a wonderful spell, right? It's probably the best level 3 spell. Obviously, you have better spells to Guardian Spirit because it's like a level 3 and you get higher levels, right? But Guardian Spirit is a spell where the Cleric summons these angels around, right? And you know, you move around, you have like angel, you know, following you basically. And yeah, it is a very, very good spell. You get it in Act 2, but it also a lot of people, of course, weak against holy magic, because mostly under and so on, so that's good. And it's just an amazing spell, right? Because you can move, and it does something while you're moving, which means that it's like a bonus free action, or you call it, after you summon it, and it lasts, of course, during the encounter. So, and yeah, and also one thing actually I think is really powerful. I do admit that, yeah, I mean, absolutely, it's really powerful, Guardian Angel, because especially some fights, like when it comes to bats or a lot of these like spirits or whatever, they have very low health, so they will immediately lose against like an AoE, right? So any AoE you basically take care of them, arrow effect, but you don't have to really cast it. So you cast it once, and then Shadowheart, and of course not you, Shadowheart can stand right at like a choke point, and then everyone will enter this point, and they will always walk into the spirits, and the angels, whatever they are, fairies, I think the angels, whatever, they will remove them, right? So it's like an amazing ability against this like low level mass, I don't know, like swarming Zerg enemies, basically. It's very, very powerful against that, and probably the best AoE spell against this. Like, there are some encounters where you have like, oh, it's like 300 bats are coming. Okay, you stand there with Guardian Spirit and take care of it. So in that way, yes, because yeah, you keep using Shadowheart's basically that ability for the whole game, right, when you get it. And it's, again, it's incredibly powerful at that time when you get it. So in that sense, Cleric's very powerful, but I don't think you should like play it, right? But I will succeed then that, well, I still think that Cleric is like the least popular, understandably why, the factors are there. I guess I talked my into making it at least one tier higher than last time, because it is a very powerful class. That I have to say. Yeah, and like I said, no, I mean, because every run, it's always like Spirit Guardian spam. It's always like that. Yeah, you always spam the Spirit Guardian. So, I guess that's a Cleric. I don't know why I skipped to a Sorcerer. Okay, let's say Sorcerer now then. Sorcerer, you could say one of the best classes, right? So last time I kind of, like I said, I kind of unranked them. I felt lower ranked them because I was playing one. I was like, oh, it's awesome. And my Sorcerer, he looks so pretty too. Okay, he looks exactly like me. I made myself basically, and you know, obviously, the Sorcerer I think is the best spellcaster, right? It gives you the I mean, it's just so amazing. The twin casting. Honestly, I feel embarrassed that I didn't rank them S tier last time. Like I said, I'm like, oh man, I don't want to now rank my own favorite class the highest. I will show them. I don't have any biases. I love Sorcerer, right? Tier, I mean, it's just so good, because usually, let me just go over there again, man. I want to go and grab Sorcerer. Why is my mouse for here? Here we go. Yeah, the Sorcerer. This is the S tier guys, right? Because Sorcerer basically has the spells that the other class has well, right? You know, that warlock has and whatever, so on. So they have the spell casting, but the ability to twin cast is so powerful. And you have the double haste, right, which is incredibly powerful. But you also have other spells too. So even like at lower levels, when you're like twin casting 2 ice orbs, you're twin casting 2 lightnings or whatever, twin casting fireballs, whatever, right? This stuff, different, and it's so good, right? And the whole class team with Coffelock, right? You have the Sorcerer, you have the Warlock, you can spam this stuff, and you can use the Sorcerer ability to regain, and it's just so good. And one thing too, and I didn't say it in my first video, because my first video was mostly looking at, I guess, pure classes. Now then, you're gonna come a little bit here with, I guess, hybrid classes, right? I made a video called about every combination classes. I also made a video about my favorite triple classes, right? And there are a few, right, you know. My favorite, like, absolute best, I'll say it, multi-classes thing. But, so I won't go into too much here. But the thing is that Sorcerer, the Coffelock thing, right? But what can I say? I think it is an amazing multi-hybrid class thing, because most multi-classing doesn't actually work early game. And that's one massive thing in this game. People, I think this game isn't hard to multi-class-ish per se, but it's more like, as I made a video, it's more like you multi-class wrong, okay? Yeah, the likelihood, I think, that people haven't played the game before, or D&D, is that you multi-class in the wrong way, right? Then it gets really weak. That's probably the biggest hurdle that you kind of experiment. You have to take it out beforehand, so on. But most classes then, like for example Cleric isn't very good for multiclassing until you get a certain level, right? You have to combine the different levels before you multiclass. Basically, if you're not like level 8 or 10 or whatever, it's hard to multiclass depending on your class, right? Depending on what class you're talking about here. But warlock or sorcerer primarily, and especially basically warlock as well, but especially sorcerer, it's also a class that is very easy to like multiclass. And what I mean with that again is that you can multiclass very early, right? So you can multiclass at like level 2 or something. And especially playing warlock then, which is a typical, level 2 warlocks, then you can go like level 2 warlocks into like fighter, or level 2 into paladin, whatever, right? So sorcerer and warlock then especially are amazing at lower levels. It's actually probably the best multiclass in the game. That's like valuable, what's it called, valid. I read it level 4, right? Something like that. And that I think actually makes it even better as well, right? And there's like both a lock thing and a sorcerer thing. Where for example then Cleric or like Paladin is pretty weak to multiclass until you get quite high level, right? Overall I think Paladin is pretty meh to multiclass until you get pretty high, because to get to auras at level 6, 5 is a double, 6 and 7, so you kind of want to be around 7 or so, 6 or 7 for Paladin, for example, right? Unless if you do the lock things, you can be like level 2 warlock into Paladin. That's pretty worse. But you get my point. So that also benefits sorcerer. But sorcerer generally, right? The twin cast is so amazing, and you can also, as I talked about, you can also use the sorcerer's points to regain your spell points, right? Which means that they work again then with warlock amazingly, but also with like cleric and wizard and so on too. So sorcerer is like, I think, the best spellcaster, right? Has the most options, or not option as in wizard, but option as in like combination of stuff, which is actually in a sense more options. I think that people always, I think, overrate wizard, because wizard has, oh, they can have any spell, sure, but sorcerer can have any spell, and then not every spell, but more spells, and then like improve them or change them or whatever. That gives you more options. The combination of different spell combos is bigger, right? Than wizard having like use a bunch of spells, but they can only use one of them, or they can only use the basic form of the spell. Where a sorcerer and a warlock or someone can like adapt a spell and change it, right, a little bit. Warlock also has to edit blast, right? But they can change the spell a little bit. Wizard is like, I have every spell, but they're all in the basic form, right? And especially then that's like fighter. Fighter wizard is good, right? The classic fighter 2 wizard 10, right? Because then you can cost 2 spells per turn, right? You can, or once you can do the combo spell thing. But sorcerer, yeah, they're going for them. And then of course also they are a charisma class, right? Which is, you can face everything, which is good. Easy to beat charisma for anything else in the game, actually. And also, of course, again, right, if you're playing the game, as I talked about earlier, there is no sorcerer companion. That gives sorcerer a massive boost. I mean, if you're not gonna play sorcerer yourself, you are gonna basically make one of the companion respec, right? I would say so, yeah. If you're gonna play sorcerer yourself, you will probably respec a person, because yeah, sorcerer is kind of like the class that you really want to have a sorcerer, right? So if you are not doing it, you probably make like, I guess, a will maybe sorcerer. Yeah, he can be like warlock sorcerer, I guess, and so on, right? That's kind of it, because it is, I would say, the best again the Maddening class, right? And again, no companion is it, so that also is a boost. And if you go look at the stats then, right, what's it called, the massive player stats, sorcerer is the second most popular class. Very popular class. I think it's around 25% or so, a little more than 20 that plays sorcerer in the runs. The stats might have changed, I would say, because I haven't seen an update on the stats for Larian, but it's probably roughly the same thing, right? So sorcerer, very, very popular class. And generally speaking, the classes that are phased right, of course, have better NPC interaction, are more popular. And look at races, it's kind of, the race is funny because it's like every ugly Gitanki is like 1% or something, yeah. No, but you can look at that combination, and it's very popular to play like half elf or half drow sorcerer, so on, the elf sorcerer, so on. Yeah, it's very, very popular. But I think that kind of fits too, because the most popular things to play is, I think it's half elf, it's number 1, I think now. But it's like half elf, human, half drow, elf, so yeah. It's like more pretty looking people, right? And so on. Like the more classic fantasy pretty guys, and good usually. Drows of course a little bit, but the elf and humans are more popular. And that leads me to that. Well, yeah, I think that like elf sorcerer feels like a very classic, RP thing to play as well, right? So it fits a lot there as well. So half elf and elf sorcerer are very, very popular to play, and it really fits in the whole RP thing, and it's pretty generic. So I said in my videos I play Paladin as well, right? Yeah. So Paladin, let's take Paladin out of that. So in my first two runs, right, I played Paladin and Sorcerer, and I look at that list, and I was like, 25% of people play Paladin, and 25%, or roughly speaking, 22 or so there, play Sorcerer. I was like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, I'm basic. Oh yeah, basic. So I played a Paladin and a Sorcerer. I do think Paladin is quite powerful though. Paladin being there again then, all the face stuff, like with Sorcerer. Paladin is probably being the best face class. These are Bard, right? These are highly value. Again, no one plays Paladin. I guess now I can be spoiling. I know Mintara could play Paladin. You have to play Evil to get her. So I would argue that no one plays Paladin. She's like the hottest companion though, but no, I think most people, I'll come back to the stats thing, most people play the good playthrough, right? They actually do. It's quite much more likely that someone actually plays the good path, and then usually you play second times evil, right? That is much more common. I think it's like 70% of that in total. 60% something. 67 or something like that, who's under 70, or playing a good playthrough. You can look at the data, how many people saved the druid and tieflings, right? In the first act, saving the grove, and it's like two-thirds of players in the first week saved the druids and so on, right? And for a side note, I very much agree that the game actually has a lack in how you can actually navigate that, right? Because in my later playthroughs, I absolutely have thought about, can I save the tieflings, not save the annoying druids, and can I like mix that shit up, Can I like combine the things somehow? But it's a little weird there. You kind of wish you could like save the tieflings and still do the goblin thing, and it would be nice if you get like, I don't know, doing that. I think still get Mintara, but I don't know, some people thought about it on buying, you can actually kind of do it in a weird way, but that's been passed out or something. But I do find that a little strange. Yeah, I feel you should have a better option there, how you actually navigate the goblin, druid, tiefling thing. And in my opinion, you should probably be able to get cards and Mintara at the same time and so on, because the druids are pretty evil. And I'll explain later that the druids are actually, like being corrupted by Cleric or something. But they act quite evil, the druids, right? So I do feel you should have some kind of, I don't know, better solution for that, I suppose, but I digress. Paladins, I think they're a very powerful class again, right? I will say though, kind of bit to play them. I mean, they are funny. I put them very high and funny. They're very merrymaker. They have high charisma and so on. But I will say this thing though, after playing my full Paladin run with my Tiefling Paladin, I was like, man, I am a little bored of like running in there and like smite. 7 smite. It's a little bit like, yeah, you can spam that smite thing. Smite. I do like playing. I think the Paladin is the best RP class. It feels the misfitting, right? You have high charisma, but it just feels better too because you have your like devotion and you have your personality. So I think that in that sense, Paladin is the class that is the funniest to play. If you really want to RP, it feels the most accurate to RP a Paladin, or most, like, it has the most, how do I say it? I don't like the whole, scum saving thing, right? So when I play Paladin, I'm just like, here comes that vampire guy. Oh yeah, stab. Get away from me, yeah. Paladin feels the most righteous, of course, as it should be. So I definitely highly rank Paladin from a fun list as well, right? And I made my fun list, and I had Paladin number 1 in the fun list, right? So in this here revisiting tier list, I think we have to also put it in the list, right? How fun is to play the class, right? This is in the list well now. This list is evolving. No, but I think it's a point to make, right? This is a revisiting list. So having played the game a lot now, I do really enjoy playing the Paladin and the Sorcerer. These are also the two, I think, the two most fun class to play. But do I think them equally good? I think the Paladin is, I don't know, Paladin super tanky. But Paladin for me is like S tier or A tier. I think last time it was like an A tier. So it's like A or S. I think it's kind of up there. Maybe much later, but let's start like this. I have to go to a family reunion soon, so or have to do like. I will do it later. Where are we? So let's take something that is also fun to play. Bardin. You know, I think the Bard is a good class, right? Great combos of classes, but I don't think Bard is like. I mean, Bard definitely is the face class. Again, I keep saying it. These are the more important classes. You don't have a Bard, right? Also, companion. Everyone wants Alfira. What's her name? Alfira. You know who I mean? The Tiefling Bard. And I just feel kind of weird actually. They don't have a Bard in your companions because the Bard is like the classic part member, right? And Bard to me also feels like one of the classes. It's like Sorcerer. Honestly, I think the companions aren't that well designed from a class standpoint, honestly. Because, for example, Fighter, I think it's a very boring class, right? Oh, I can do a lot of turns or whatever, yeah, very boring. It feels weird to me that you don't have a Bard. Like, I would rather have someone being a Bard as their, you know, like a native class, right? But also, of course, having a little more of the personality as a Bard. Because I don't think that anyone fits as a Bard. Going back to what I said earlier, I would never like really pick anyone to be a Bard. I don't think anyone is like Bard-ish. You know what I mean? So in my latest playthrough, I used a hireling as a Bard. You get like, what she's like a gnome, I think, yeah, a gnome Bard. I like that, you know. I've seen, of course, what's it called? Critical damage, what's it called? Critical Role, I want to say it's called. Whatever, you know, the Vox Machina, so yeah, the Vox Machina anime or something, right? And yeah, I feel like the Bard should be like a gnome or a dwarf or something. I don't want to have like a human Bard, I don't know. It doesn't fit to me. But seriously, yeah, when I played my own Bard run, I also, of course, made like a gnome Bard or something. Like it has to be a short guy, a halfling Bard. It has to be that. I don't know. I can't play like a human Bard or an orc Bard or something. It doesn't make any sense to me. I just can't do that, right? It feels so off-putting. But yeah, I do think it's kind of strange you don't have a Bard, right? Tiefling Bard like her works. Like, yeah, Tiefling Bard works, but like, yeah, I can't be like an orc Bard, a human Bard. I don't know. So I don't like respec anyone. And Karlach's just too aggressive. I mean, I think like Alfira works, but Karlach again, right? She's just so aggressive, so she doesn't work as like a Bard. I kept saying earlier, she has to be a melee character, so she doesn't work like a Bard. I don't think anyone's a Bard in your companions. But anyway, my point of course that yeah, you should play a Bard, right? I think Bard's good. Great face class. Some funny options. I wait the Bard though, or a strength against argument, but is that you have to kind of like multiclass them. I think that Bard as a singular class is quite weak though. You have to multiclass into something else. I would argue for at level 6 right from there. You can't really like just play the Bard level 12. Bard is probably more complicated to play than, for example, if you play a Barbarian or whatever as your main character, because I keep saying, I think you have to really think about like, okay, I'm a Bard, and then Bard either being like magical based, magical based, or like physical based, and then you have to think, oh, I'm like a magical Bard, so I'm gonna be like half Bard, half Sorcerer, and combine that. But sure, but it works though, absolutely, like Bard Sorcerer, Bard Paladin. I mean, I think it's kind of funny, but honestly, in my opinion, most of the classes that are the faith classes or the charisma classes are also the best to combine, you know? It is very easy. No, that's my family, yeah. This video is, this is the only time I have, okay? So, we try to wrap it up best as I can. You're like, where are you? Yeah, okay, I have to leave soon, we have to meet up. Sorry. I think it's funny though that charisma classes are also, roughly speaking, the best classes or easiest classes to combine, right? I'm not saying that they have the best result, usually they actually do, or the good result is, but yeah, it is quite easy to be like, oh, I'm half Bard, half warlock, or whatever. So we're like, I don't know. We're coming to Rogue later. I made a long video about rogues and how good they are at multiclassing though. Rogue is interesting because I feel that both Ranger and Rogue are like really bad late game, right? But if you combine Rogue and Ranger, they're really good suddenly. So, but you have to combine them basically with something else, usually with each other, and then they're really good. And but things that Ranger and Rogue is like the most straightforward multi-class too. Like if you're playing the Ranger, you very likely will play Ranger / Rogue, right? Eventually, or no, like otherwise. Of course, you can also combine with Monk and Fighter and so on. Again, I have another video about that if you're interested. Check it out. But they go over all details, right? But generally speaking, yeah, of course, like it's an obvious like combination. Where I do think Bard in that sense is more complicated because you're playing the Bard and you're like, well, what should I be now? You know what I mean? Like, what should I combine into? And I think is that with Bard, everything kind of works though. So you can't really go like wrong in a sense. You can kind of combine into anything and it kind of works, right? But I don't think that like a Bard multing into X is as good as, for example, the Ranger or Rogue multing as something else, right? So I had the Rogue as ST last time. I think the Rogue is very powerful, but I want to stress on this point to then, putting up the Rogue here, that when you're playing the Rogue, you have to basically multi-class, okay? I didn't say that last time, because I was talking about the stealth mechanics, alright? But again then, really to put out here, again I made another video about it in detail, right? When you're playing the Rogue is very powerful early game. It's very powerful generally speaking, because it gives you all the options to, steal stuff and stealth through stuff and so on, right? You can of course stealth as a monk as well, right? But most the Rogue is the best this thing. Gives you a lot of options for stealth stuff, right? Probably the best class for if you want to play a single tactician run with only one character. It probably should be like a monk rogue thing. I would argue for absolutely. Or it probably should be monk rogue ranger or something like that, maybe fighter. But these kind of combinations are probably the best, right? With the fighter you have the second. Yeah, they're also a very good combo. You have a fighter rogue, monk, and so on. Also very powerful. You can like do all the super ambush turns or whatever. So most of the combos, right? But basically, rogue is very very powerful early game. And then around mid game, you will go into usually Ranger, right? So you get this like Gloomstalker or whatever. So you have this like ambush bonus. And then that also keeps making the rogue Ranger thing very very powerful. Then late game you get fighter usually, maybe monk, and then you get the second turn thing and so on, right? And you can do like 8 attacks or something during stealth, in-house stealthing, ambush bonuses, and you can like insta defeat a boss before they can move, right? You're like, hey Sorkov, are you raised out? Turn 1, Sorkov, you're out, So rogue is very powerful, I think. Rogue is very very powerful. It actually is. I think it's the worst companion, as the worst companion. But rogue is powerful, and also feels like something you as the player can play, even if you also have that vampire guy you obviously call stake. Why would you ever not stake him, guys? But it does feel like a class that is just good all the way through. But like I said though, you have to actually multi-class it. And I think that some people in my last video were like, no, rogue is terrible late game and so on. Yeah, they were, oh no, rogue is the weakest class late game. But like I said, yeah, I probably agree with that rogue can't be S tier if you just play like a level 12 rogue. I agree with that. That to me is probably one of the weakest classes in the game. If you like pure rogue, yeah, not any multi-classing at all, or that is probably pretty weak. But I do find that the rogue but if you multi-class, I talk about, then it's very powerful. And I would actually probably rate it over than the Paladin. It is extremely powerful actually, the late game builds. Something that's a start with. But that's the Ranger same time then. I think Ranger though is pretty weak though, honestly. So Ranger, it's honestly, Ranger feels pretty meh because everything I said about Ranger and Rogue is true, of course. And what I mean with that is that everything I said applies to Ranger versus Rogue as well, right? So again, Ranger is like very powerful late game and roughly mid game somewhere, whether mid game, act 2, mid act 2, whatever. Roughly somewhere in when you get like level 6, 7 and so on, right? I think level 6, I guess, with Rogue Ranger. I think, 3+3, it should be. Especially level 6. You get very, very powerful, okay? Like, it's always the best build in the game at level 6. If you get, that's like a very detailed tier list. It's like about per level, right? Level 6, man, this class then. But yeah, Ranger Rogue 3/3 level 6 is very, very powerful. And then Ranger gets really good, right? With that whole Rogue Ranger ambush combo. But up to that point, Ranger isn't very good in the game. The early game, I mean, you have your your range and pet and so on. Ranger is unique in a sense that you have like the only physical based range character and so on. But you also do lower damage than like a wizard or a sorcerer or whatever, right? Usually you don't have spell slots though, but so Ranger to me is pretty boring early game. Okay, so I did play a Ranger, I said right in my fourth round. I played a monk Ranger, so I played a Ranger halfling, and it felt pretty boring once. I got level 3. Now okay, I'm getting my build here. And then I thought about the course level 6, 5, 6, multiclassing. Now, oh yeah, here we go. Now it's badass right now. Oh yeah, now here it goes. That's kind of how it feels. So I wouldn't recommend Ranger that highly actually. I do think it's very powerful. Thought about as the rogue, right? But you have to kind of get into that. You have to get that rogue and the fighter and or the monk that perhaps play that build. You have to kind of get the multi-class going, I feel. But again, then it's very powerful. But it's not that fun by itself, right? And also, I don't think that Ranger has talked to animals, I guess. That's it, right? Ranger isn't very fun to play as an NPC character. So mostly you play it as a thief, right? Yeah, you play like an evil Ranger, as I did. If you play a good Ranger, so you don't focus on stealing stuff as a Ranger, it's probably a really meh class. I mean, I'm honestly assuming that you're playing the Ranger's evil here. Yeah, like honestly, yeah. I'm assuming you're playing like I said, like a Ranger that is also a rogue, right? Basically from level 1. So you're stealing stuff, you're taking stuff and so on. Yeah, you're doing all stuff, right? If you're playing the Ranger as a good character, you might, of course, use stealth and so on. But I mean, like you don't steal stuff in city and so on. Then your Ranger is even worse, I would say. So yeah, I don't know. I think Ranger is actually pretty meh. It does feel like a worse rogue, right? Honestly. After having played it now, after having played a Ranger run, I'm like, man, I regret this. Should have just played Rogue level 1 instead, and then basically it feels like I should have just played Rogue, and then it's like, okay, I'm multiclass into Ranger, right? The order, yeah, Rogue into Ranger would have been funnier than Ranger into Rogue. That's how it feels. It doesn't add much, I will say, honestly. So they do feel pretty meh. And to be fair, right, if you have to like multi-class your class to make it valuable, you can see the class is very powerful if you have to like use it. So Ranger is actually probably one of the worst classes in the game. I keep coming back to it that Ranger is only good because you multi-class. So I'm gonna actually put Ranger in like C tier, maybe even trash tier, something like that. Not a big fan of it, honestly, right? Not a big fan of it. I mean by far my worst run in the game. Okay, that I can say easily. Yeah. By far my run that I felt the most bored. Ranger has really boring. It's not that fun until you get higher level, mid level. So for that, as a side note though, a lot of people talk about say this thing, and I agree with the thing. Is that Act 2 is actually probably the easiest part of the game actually. What do you think about that, guys? Because in Act 2, like I said with the Ranger, where you get like the combo level and so on, there's like it's like a threshold around like 5 and 6. At level 5. Some classes, like the Paladin and so on, right? The Paladin, they get double, right? And same for like Fighter, I think, Fighter, Barbarian, Paladin. And then for 6, you get some spells. And you also get, for example, then 3/3, multi, and so on. So usually around 5 and 6, which is the middle of Act 2, I think, or beginning of Act 2, depending on how much class you do, the game gets really easy. Yeah, the game gets absurdly easy, because that's basically when you're, like I said, like when your Ranger and your Rogue build kind of starts kicking off, right? That's in Act 2, when you kind of get that, okay, now I got the combo going here, the base combo line, and then suddenly you get like triple the damage. Yeah, so it gets super easy. That has been my experience like every run. When you get a certain level, usually during Act 2, it's like, oh my god, it's so easy now. And then it started getting hard again in beginning of Act 3, right? But it really depends on if you do every quest in Act 1, of course, and you do everything, you're gonna be that level already early, right? Obviously, but if you're playing like decently amount of quests in Act 1 and Act 2, Act 2 usually if you hit a threshold, then suddenly the game gets absurdly easy for like a few, not the whole game, I mean, but for a few hours, like maybe for 10 hours or whatever, and then you're around Act 3, and unless if you do everything in Act 3 right, you're gonna be a little weaker and so on. But anyway. Where was we then? Ranger, pretty man. Let's say Monk. I like Monk a lot. I still like Monk a lot, okay? Like I said in the last video, Monk is like the best level 1, level 2 class. They're extremely powerful in early levels. Monk, just like the rogue and ranger, have this start multiclasses. You can play like a ninja monk, like all right. When you play the rogue monk, of course, very powerful. You have the monk fighter, powerful. You have the monk cleric, also very powerful. The wisdom, like a tanking monk thing. In my latest run, I'm using Shadowheart as a monk cleric, right? She's like tanking as a monk cleric. It's extremely powerful. Like keeping her as like a life cleric, you know, whatever it's called. Is it life or light or whatever? But my point is like running in there, super tanky, high wisdom, the whole monk thing, and also healing and having like guardian on her is like super annoying for the enemies. Can get away right. Works very well. So yeah, I like monk a lot. Given these different abilities, I definitely enjoy playing monks. I've been more than ranger, right? On my ranger run, they're quite similar. But obviously you play the monk kind of similar to a rogue, I guess, right? But you know, I like how the monk, as honestly, as in most video games, I like how the monk is different, right? They have the melee stuff, you have your martial art, you don't have your items. Monk is always giving you a good, little different playing focus up, or they call it mechanics, right? Like in my last video, I compared the monk to like Lux in 7 Sega, right? Oh, he's like a robot. He doesn't have any gear, so he's much more powerful because he scales better, right? You don't need to pick up gear and so on. That's very common. So yeah, I like the monk, right? It gives you different gameplay, I like their abilities, and they are pretty powerful in different combinations. You can't really, I would say you can't really combo them though with the charisma classes. Not really. They don't work very well with like sorcerer or like paladin and so on. Bard, a little bit bard perhaps. You can play like a bard bard monk, yeah. But bard is you can play everything, I guess. But no, I like the monk. I think they work very well. Probably, I think the monk is one of the funnier. Yeah, I mean, I would say if you haven't played the different classes yet, I definitely recommend playing monk over fighter. You know, I'm not a big fan of fighter because fighter is like, oh, I just have a lot of attacks. I don't really like. I think fighter is boring to play. I think monk have interesting abilities. Barbarian likewise. Barbarian has a throw though. Barbarian has a throw. That's pretty fun. But yeah, Paladin I think sees more sort of tank smiter. Right? I don't know. I think monk is like here. Let's keep going for now. But yeah, I think monk is like here. Let's go into fighter then. I think fighter is trash, right? No, I always get this thing right. People are always saying angry at me that I dislike fighter. The thing is that I don't dislike fighter because last year is ugly or whatever. I don't dislike fighter in the sense I think fighter is bad. Okay, I think fighter's a pretty good class, but I do find them really boring to play. Okay, that's one thing. Okay, I think this is probably the most boring class in the game. You have a lot of attacks, really boring. Maneuver or whatever, yeah, boring. Really boring. I think what's called Eldritch Fighter, or it's called again when you play spellcasting with fighters. Terrible class. No, but that one is pretty meh too. It's basically like a fighter with cantrips. You can basically play a elf fighter and get it. Yeah, but honestly, yeah, like a fighter, like the magician based fighter, they get the cantrips right. If you play like an elf fighter, because elf always has one cantrip, half elves, you basically have the same thing. So you can play like a battle master fighter as an elf, and you will have your cantrips too. Right? That class is terrible. That class is terrible. Like, what's the point of playing that class? It is like level 3, but yeah, it is honestly, it's like, if you play an elf, yeah, battle master level 3, you will basically have that like fireball, cantrip, or whatever. You just have as if you play like an elf. Yeah, like if you play the. But I think the fighter is a very interesting class because I thought about it at length, right, in of course my multi-class video. But fighters are, generally speaking, terrible class I think in the game. However, they're amazing if you combine them, right. Fighter is the most useful like multi-class thing because you only need 2 levels of fighter to get the whole second wind thing and what's called second action, second surge. So you get so much stuff from the fighter. Fighter is probably one of the by far the most useful classes, right? Used for playing as like a level 2 or level 1 or whatever, and level 3 level battle master usually. So a lot of other classes like Paladin is pretty terrible. Like Paladin, you want to get to like level 6, okay, to get the Paladin auras, right? 5 at least, right? So you don't want to get but fighter you stop at level 2. So in that sense, fighter is the best class because you can use it with every other class. Like wizard fighter is pretty good, 10, 2, so yeah. So the fighter, in a way, it is the best class in the game to combine it with other classes, right? Even more so than, like, for example, rogue and so on. Because yeah, rogue is more like you have to do it, right? Rogue is like a very good class at lower levels, and then when you get to the higher levels and you take rogue and multiclass it gets incredibly powerful, right? But with fighter instead, it's like you can basically have like a level 2 fighter and anything, and it just works, right? So fighter to me is a very weird class where I don't think you ever want to play the fighter, but you want to have it as your off class, your subclass or whatever, right? For so many different classes, you can basically be anything plus fighter, and it's pretty good. And especially then if you're rogue ranger, it's amazing. And also, of course, like Barbarian versus that, Paladin versus that, right? So, in that sense, fighter is the best class. By itself, though, I think it's like the worst class in the game, though. Yeah, it's just like, oh, I can just do a bunch of attacks, which is good, but they don't add anything. They have like no utility. Okay, they have like that maneuver thing, I guess, it's better method. It can make people move a little bit, but it's a minor utility. It's like, yeah, I can make someone have a little more steps. It helps sometimes. Like, they don't do much during the actual encounter. You have the whole, there's some builds, you have the tavern, brawler, fighter, and then play like with my, they have some builds, right? But I keep saying it, it's like, yes, if you play tavern, yeah, they're keeping writing to me here, sorry, I have to check this out. There might be, okay, yeah, we already, I love that comment, okay, yeah, we are ready to go. I'm like, okay, great, I'm not. God damn it. Okay, let's hurry it up, guys. What was I saying? Fighter is, I think, the worst class in the game if you play it by yourself, right? The best class in the game for multiclassing. This is a tier list here, how the individual classes to some extent work. No, but it's more like, do you want to play the fighter, right? You as the player mostly. No, right? You want to play the paladin, and you pick the fighter as your alt class, right? Do you want to play, let's say, the monk, right? Or the fighter. You want to play the monk, and you have monk into fighter, right? A rogue into fighter. Or like a rogue ranger into fighter, right? That's how you play the fighter, I would say, most of the time. I don't think you actually want to play the fighter. How it makes any sense. But in that sense, it's a worst class. And wizard, wizard trash, but I don't know how to display that. Wizard trash, right? Wizards are meh, because you set the fighter, they're like, oh, I can have every spell, right? And that's pretty fun, but it's like, okay, but the warlock can do it better most of the time, honestly. The sorcerer can do it way better. Sorcerer with their twin casting and different options of the spell casting, right, is a much higher level of complexity and combinations, right? And the thing is that the wizards, for example, that they need the fighter or whatever, right, to have 2 spells or whatever, to actually be able to combine stuff. So wizard, to me, people also anger me, but they basically are very weak early game because you have every spell, but you have no spell slots, and then you waste all that stuff, right? Mid game, you can do more stuff and so on, but then usually it's like, okay, but how do I utilize having every spell or just being the cleric with the good spells? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sure, I can use the same spell, but it's like, why don't I'd rather have the better stats and the other benefits of being a cleric with the best spell, like Guardian Angel. I can be a wizard with Guardian Angel, but it doesn't really help me that much because it helps me obviously to get spell. But it's like, I'd rather have Guardian Angel plus a better class versus Guardian Angel a weaker class, right? So it doesn't really help. Having all the options usually isn't that good unless you can really combine them, and wizard can't actually. You have to set up the whole grease into fireball and dun, and it takes a long time, right? I'm not a big fan of the wizard because it's just like, it's a lot of setup, right? And you usually have too few spells to do it early game. So you have to be like sorcerer with something to have it going for them, right? And then being intelligence is not a very good stat in the game. Intelligence is like the worst stat in the game. Pretty straightforward, yeah. Honestly, I think the game struggles a little bit with the usefulness of different NPC stuff, right? So the usefulness of the different, what's it called, profession, whatever it's called, backstories, right? Lore, the whole like, are you a historian and stuff like that. The game struggles with that, honestly. I think the game is very much focused on a few of them. So we have like 20 different ones, right? 20 combos or whatever, but it's like only 5 that are good, right? And basically all the charisma ones, the charisma focused phase ones, are like 10 times better. Like the being an historian and so on inside, so those are pretty. Yeah, the history one is like terrible. So yeah, like most times. So the int based one, the int thing, the same thing. Where it's like, how often do I actually utilize this thing? Arcana and int and so on. Yeah, how often do I actually utilize this thing? No, my mouse is doing a load today. How often do I actually utilize that, right? So that's also a weakness for the wizard. Oh, I have like the worst main stat, I think by far in the game, honestly. But that acts to me, I have said it right. It is a weakness of the game. Yeah, the game should actually probably have more in stuff. You see, to get my point, I hope you get my point right. But I don't think that the game design around the wizard necessarily is that good then, right? Or rather, like if you have the exact same classes and characters compared to whatever in another game, not like another setting, another storyline point, another Act 3 is in another city, basically, yeah. It might be more useful, right? So that's a weakness. I think absolutely the wizard. And I don't think they even combine very good either. I think Wizard is one of the weakest classes to multiclass too, for better or worse. It means that its own class is quite powerful late game, of course, getting better spells and so on by itself. But it is not that good to play it. I don't know. I always find Wizard to be really boring to play too. It's the fighter of the magician guys, but the fight is more effective because they have more turns. Taking more turns in turn-based game is better. So I don't get it. I don't get it, guys. I don't get it, okay? I don't get it. I'm a sorcerer, okay? Wizard for noobs, man. Sorcerer has random spells too. That's way fun too, yeah. So anyway, let's say Warlock then. Put Warlock up here, right? I think Warlock is like the better wizard in many ways. People get angry when I say, I know. That's what I say it. But the Warlock basically is like Eldritch Blast is like better. All the spells you have, yeah. The thing is that Eldritch Blast, right, if it builds with Warlock, is very, very powerful. Okay, very, very powerful. So in early game, it's like, why would I use the wizard cantrips, right? Like the Ice Bolt or whatever, when I have Eldritch Blast with my Warlock. It's so much better. So it's like, that's what I mean, right? As the wizard, you can have like 5 different spells or whatever. As the Warlock, you have one spell, Eldritch Blast. But it's so much better. So what's the point of having like 5 different weak spells? Oh, I can pick the weak spell. I can pick bad or bad. Or I can have one good spell, right? That's why I don't like Wizard, right? Honestly, in most cases. Because it's like I have a lot of bad options, right? But I have options. Warlock, like I have no options. But it's very powerful what I have instead. Much better in the game, honestly. So that's the general thing with Warlock, right? You have this Eldritch Blast thing. It pushes them out. You can teleport, misstep, and kick them out, so on. Allow that build with Wild, right? Miss a step, pushing them out. You can teleport around, push them up, push them up, push them out. It's very, very powerful, seriously. One of the best builds in the mid-game, especially, I think, early mid-game, is that, yeah, so you teleport with misstep, right? And then you have, your push, right? So you push around, also works in Act 3 as well, at different places, like the dungeon and so on, like the, what's it called, Baldur dungeon, whatever, the dungeon you need to have the murder thing, blah, 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 so, that dungeon, for example, Eldritch Blast is amazing, so you teleport to push them up, push them up, push them out. So I call it a pushing lock build, right? Very, very powerful. You can be a Coffelock doing that, right? So you can be an Sorcerer doing that. It's so powerful. Okay, seriously, one of the best in the game. And it works like everywhere where you can push people out, right? Which is most fights, especially soft fights, is very, very powerful. Because if you push someone out, you obviously just win immediately, right? So it is extremely powerful. When I fast Baldur, so I pushed him out, right? And I pushed him out without doing that, but I pushed him out, yeah. I was like, nope! Yeah. But push them out, So that's Warlock. Warlock is the best class, I would say, is to push people out. Probably, yeah. I think so. They don't have strength, but they have the amazing push spell, like double push spell, right? Yeah. So good. And then, yes, they have fewer bigger spells, right, than like the Wizard, but they basically have what you need usually, and I really mean that, because yes, you only have like 2 level 5 spells or whatever, and Wizard can spam them all day, but usually what you need is like, one AoE big spell, right, and then it's like, why would I throw more AoEs? I have thrown the big AoE, now rather you spam Eldritch Blast, so does more damage, seeing it targetedly. This is stressful. I have, very tight schedule here, guys. Saturday family time. Very time schedule. I have to answer that sooner. But here's my point. Bam, 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 right. With Warlock, very good. Warlock also very, very good with combination of classes, right? Talked about earlier, obviously, Warlock and Sorcerer is like the best combo in the game. Simplest combo, I love it. I think again it's the best combo when you're leveling up, right? With, for example, Rogue Ranger is also very good, but not very fun until you get like level 6, 7 or get a point. But Warlock is also very powerful with like Paladin. You can have the Paladin pusher, you can have the weird Warlock monk build, you can have, and so on. So Warlock is so powerful, similar to Fighter, where it's like, oh, I'm just like getting like 2 levels, and I'm getting so much from just the first 2 levels. The past hits of Warlock at level 2 is so powerful. Similar to Fighter, it's very, very powerful, you know, at only a few levels. So probably Fighter and Warlock, Cleric as well. Yeah, Cleric is weird because they get so much passives. So Cleric is also very powerful for like 1, 2 levels. That's true. But these are probably 3 best classes. These on a very, very low level as a combination, right? So you can be like 10 Paladin, 2 Warlock, or so on. Yeah, and it kind of works. But Warlock, I think, is the best one of them. Like, it gives you so much, except the Fighter at level 10, maybe. Yeah, the Fighter is a little hard to say that because at level 10, the Fighter gives you double turns, which is much more powerful. Also, at level 10, I mean 10 plus 2, I mean, yeah, level 12, right? But Warlock is like at, let's say, level 7, right? Getting the Warlock passives plus a 5 Paladin. That's stronger than having like 1 turn of double action as a Paladin. Definitely. So it's a little bit like Fighter is better at max level as level 2, but Warlock is better as level 2 up to max level. You have a point, right? And I said in the video too, I feel that at a tier list, you can't just look at max level. I think it's so uninteresting to say that what is the best class at max level, because most of is the journey to max level, right? And then Warlock, I think, is much better than Fighter during leveling up, right? Especially as it's multiclass thing, like level 2 Warlock, level 2 Fighter, at lower levels. Like that Warlock is much better at like level 2. If you like 2, then I don't know, 2 Warlock, 5 Sorcerer, whatever, right? It's much better than being like Fighter and plus something else at the mid levels. So there is clearly much better. Okay, clearly much better. So that's one thing. But I don't think you get absolute Sorcerer. That was weird for me last time. Like I said earlier, I was very anti. I was like, I have to put Sorcerer at this level, right? So Sorcerer should definitely be higher than Warlock, and I think it's kind of fair to put it there. Then lastly, we got Barbarian, which I do think is like a better, Cleric. Barbarian with the throw, I think it's fantastic, right? With the enraged throw and so on. I don't think that the other Barbarian builds are good at all, though, honestly. So you kind of want to play the Friendship Barbarian. It definitely is much better than the other ones. You would obviously have Carlax as your Barbarian, though. So no one, yeah, she's the hot Carlax, man, engine lady. She's obviously be your, this is your companion with Barbarian. Probably more of them. I do think Barbarian has somewhat limited combos. You play usually with Fighter, maybe Druid, maybe Paladin. You can't really go into Roches that much. Maybe Bard, Barbarian, and so on. But Barbarian is like the most straightforward working functional class. And at early levels, it's much stronger than Fighter. The thing is that, yes, Fighter have their like double action thing, but it only works like once per, rest basically, right? So Barbarian usually outperform them in any long encounter, and also if you don't want to rest all the time between encounters, right? But it's like a good class, but I don't think. But I have to say, I think I actually put Barbarian in the lower, honestly, this time. Yeah, the more I think about it, like last time it was A tier, but I don't feel it does as much as like the Warlock or as the Monk and so on. I don't think they're slightly worse, but arguably the Monk isn't that fantastic either, I guess, at like mid tier or so. Barbarian is so straightforward though, and that makes them stronger, I guess, as a class. It's very simplistic. I kind of struggle now with the Barbarian. I definitely feel like I actually probably have a lower opinion about them than last time. So I kind of want to put them down one tier. Yeah, from A to B. I do feel a little bit like, I mean, yeah, they're fine, but they're not like that good. I do think that they have the issue of they're not that good with many other classes. You can't do much with them late game. You definitely probably will But at the same time, the Barbarian works as just Barbarian, right? So you get to like level, is it level 9? Where you get like critical bonus or whatever? I think it's level 9. Barbarian definitely works though. Instead, you're playing obviously Coffelock out more yourself, right? And you play with Coffelock, you give her good gear, and she's gonna do good stuff anyway. You don't have to multiclass her. It is definitely the easiest class to play in the game, as I guess Barbarian usually are. That I would say definitely. I don't think any other class is as simple as Barbarian. And throwing is really powerful though. So, is it the throw is so powerful? But you have to pick the throw build though, absolutely. I think that's a little bit of Barbarian. Okay, I don't know. I'm struggling. I'm getting a little bit up here, yeah. I'm just like, yeah, Barbarian, a little bit up there, yeah. I do struggle a little bit with the Barbarian. Oh. I feel it's like B.5. Yeah, I feel it's like, I think that this is probably more true actually thing about it too though. This way. You can see that the charisma builds. It's always the charisma build. But I say it every time. A rogue is good too, but yeah, otherwise a rogue. But it's like Paladin. It's always the charisma guys that I put high, man. That's how it goes, man. That's how it goes. Yeah, the charisma specs. So they're always the best, man. This is how it goes. Absolutely. The rogue is like a little cheating there. And then we have the druid. Okay, let's say the druid. I am low on time. I'm sorry. I can talk for 10 more hours. I will probably make more videos though. So please subscribe. Pass a like button, so alright. Definitely probably make more videos with my 300 hours of revisiting. No, but certainly. And I do still kind of want to. I already made like 2 multi-class videos, but you know, it's a great game. You can talk about it for hours, right? But this is primarily my general take on it. Is playing it more now. Druid, I still like the Druid though, right? Last time I had the Druid in like ST or whatever, people got crazy over me. I think that the Druid is a very, very powerful class on early game with your animal forms, so tanking and so on. The thing is that I think Druid has the Owl Bear is just so powerful. It's level 7, right? Yeah, the Owl Bear is incredibly powerful. You can jump around, you get this like absurdly amount of damage when you land them. Which of course there are some builds to use land them and just, you know, crush them, right, from high landing. But it really is like it is like crazy powerful when you play the druid, and I think that druid has these very like weirdly powerful pets, right? You know, so you have like the zombie druid build, right? We also have the elemental druid build. So druid is also one of the best classes to be like some kind of like a summoner, and they're very, very powerful for that as well. And they also get the E spells. I think that the druid, you know, also like outperforms the wizard because they're getting same thing as with the warlock or the cleric, right? The druid, you get some really good spells that you can have then on level whatever 4, 3, whatever, right? You get some really good spells, and then it's like, do I need to have every spell? No, I don't, because I have like Halo, whatever. I don't know. I have this summoning spell. Yeah, I don't need to have every spell. I got spell I need, right? And then I have the shape as well, and I have better stats and better passes and so on than what the wizard has. So I keep saying that I feel it's a better wizard. Yeah, and I do think that the owl, benefit owl bear is like great. Okay, and one thing that I really like with druid is that druid is one of the best, if not the best class, to not multi-class, right? And here again, this is not a this is like half-ass multi-class. This is not too much multi-classing here, even though I mentioned a lot. But I'm not like rating just multi-classing here, right? And druid is like reverse fighter, where it's like, no, I'm good just being druid. And fighter is like, I need to multi-class, right? At 100%. Ranger too, yeah, I need to multi-class all the time to make me useful late game. Druid is like the most given class to stay as druid, and that I think definitely also values them upwards there, right? Now they don't have charisma though. But having played the game a lot, being and sorcerer I think is a better class than druid, I think so, and bar as well. I would probably put them like here now, okay? So I will reduce. I basically push them down a little down there. And I do think that Druid actually gets somewhat weaker at level like 9, I think it is. So they're very, very powerful owl bear. But we get like 9 and 10 or so, you get the raptor. That animal is weaker than the owl bear. So the balance kind of gets out there. And the druid is the peak on level 7, I think. Kind of at beginning of Act 3 or end of Act 2 as well, after there. That's like the druid peak. Yeah, that's the peak there. But then they go down. I do think the Druids are pretty weak actually late game, I will say. And then you have to multiclass them, perhaps, or have to. But you don't get much of multiclassing them, because their animal form isn't that good, because the animal form is based on the Druid level. So there is this classic like Druid Barbarian build and so on, right? And also you have the Druid Warlock. Sorry, Druid Wizard, Druid Wizard. Druid 6/6, yeah. Wizard 6, Druid 6, the Zombie Druid, whatever it's called, something like that. But, yeah, I do think Druid actually strikes a lot late game. That's probably what I realized playing the game for 300 hours, that I think Druid are very good early game. They're very powerful mid game. Maybe the best class mid game. Very, very powerful mid game, right? Incredibly powerful mid game. So you can do everything, like in World of Warcraft. You can tank this best, but then you get to late game. It's probably what I find the weakest. Except the whole ridiculous owl baiting. I've tried it, of course, because it's fun, you know, that owl bait landing on Gore-Tax or whatever and winning immediately. So yeah, but except those like cheesy stuff, right? Druid is quite weak, I would say, late game, and because then, like I said, Druid can't really like, they can multiclass, but then it lowers the animal form and so on, right? So they struggle with multiclassing. Like I said though, they also benefit of being the class that have to multiclass. This is Barbarian. They can stay the same class though. It benefits you as a player, especially if you're the first time playing the game. It definitely benefits you. But at the same time, that at late game, that's like an issue with Barbarian. Level 12 Barbarian is definitely better than level 12 Druid. But I think like a level 7 Druid is much better than a level 7 Barbarian, right? Like going back to that thing that I like to think about, you know, from, you know, leveling the whole way through, right? And that's why I put the Ranger in really low C, because Ranger, honestly, I can even see myself putting Ranger as in Wizard Trash Team, because my Ranger run is by far the run I'm not enjoying. It's so bad early game. Honestly, I put myself, yeah, Ranger is the worst class in the game. The more I think about it, no, Ranger is the worst class in the game, okay? But I have to put some enjoyment into the game as well there. That's not a tease I made, right? But honestly, yeah, the fun aspect of Ranger is like really boring, yeah. No, Ranger was my worst run, okay, easily. I haven't, of course, tried a Wizard run. We were a terrible class. No, but yeah, no, Ranger is by far the worst class to play in the game. I felt that was really boring. I felt underpowered like until I became a rogue Ranger, basically. Yeah, that was, and I put out, I mean, my Ranger, this is my 4th run. So I already beaten the game, you know, 3 times. I already know the game. And I still feel like struggling more with my Ranger run than I did in my first run or something. I'm like, yeah, no, the Ranger is the worst class in the game. I realized that, okay, I have to commit with that. The Ranger is bad, okay. You have to, like, multiclass them and so on. Trash Ranger, okay. You happy now? Wizard in the worst class. It is Ranger, probably. Anyway, now, hope you guys subscribe. Press the like button. Maybe some more videos, right? We are also probably making some Spider-Man videos. That's coming up later. What's it on my game? Huh? Some plastic left on it. No! It's plastic and it's coming down underneath into it, whatever. Spider-Man, seen it yesterday. Probably make some videos about that. Maybe some, I don't know, talent lists or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, right? The games are not my forte, as opposed to the way. Obviously, I like this game as well. I mean, it's a great game, but you know, I do prefer. Where's my role-playing Spider-Man game? No, but seriously, I mean, it's a great game, and obviously, it wouldn't make any sense. But I could see. I used to play Marvel. I was like a turn-based Marvel game, right? So it definitely can be made though, but not a Spider-Man game. More like a. But imagine something like FFT or the Sky or whatever, like a chessboard role-playing game. Where every piece, you know, is like a Marvel character. That would work, definitely. Iron Man and so on. Yeah, that's actually Marvel Alliance 2 was like that. They got cancelled after a few months of the game. But anyway, I digress, guys. Subscribe, like button, and have a great day.